We are, meaning myself and my wife, are former international civil servants. We used to work for the World Bank in Washington, D.C., where we spent all our professional lives, practically. I went to Washington to join the International Monetary Fund in 1970. 3 years later, I moved from the IMF, International Monetary Fund, to the World Bank. And I stayed another 25 years, until 1998. By the time I was 55, and my wife was a few years less, I said, look, I've always wanted to go back to Italy sooner or later. We should do it now, because if we wait any longer, it's going to be too late to start something new. And so we took early retirement. We packed up our wares, came back to Italy, started looking for a vineyard. And we soon realized that when we found a winery that we liked, it was too expensive and we couldn't afford it. And that, therefore, to realize our dream, there was only one way, which is to start from scratch, plant our own, which is a lot cheaper than buying an existing successful winery. It costs less, but it requires more work and more patience, because you plant, you have to wait 3 years before your first production, and then you start producing, then you have to age, and then you have to build a market, a customer base after 5 years. And for 5 years, you only invest. Luckily, we had our pensions that allowed us to survive. We put our souls into it because that was our dream. And we realized that if we could hold on long enough, we would be successful. And sure enough, it did take 10 years to arrive at a break-even, which means at a point where we didn't spend any more of our pension because we started earning more than we were spending. And that's how we started. Bear in mind that when we started, we knew absolutely nothing about wine, but we took the advice of some guy who said once to us, there's nothing you cannot do if you have the right book. So we got ourselves plenty of the right books. And we tried to learn about it. We went to school, we went to courses, we got good advisors to help us as consultants. So we learned about winemaking and learned that it is really not necessary to have a family tradition of generations in winemaking in order to make good wine. What it takes is to learn the right way to do it and to use the advice of real experts. And that's what we've done. I personally had a strong preference to settle in Tuscany, because Tuscany is the most interesting region of Italy, more interesting than any other, because of its history, because of the works of art here, This is the land of Michelangelo and Leonardo. So I wanted to live in Tuscany. So what can you do in the countryside in Tuscany? It came natural to think, must be wine. I think if you are a producer, you can find in the wine what otherwise would remain unknown. So being involved in the production helped enormously. I really appreciate in depth why wine is alive and actually has a spirit of its own. You know?